welcome to BoxTheBase. I'm your host, Vic. That's my co-host, Josh. And we have a lot of baseball to talk about. And yeah, we're going to kind of jump right into it. We're going to talk about the Marlins. Juan Soto returned to Yankee Stadium. That was interesting. After we recorded our last episode, Brandon Hyde got fired. So another manager firing to talk about.
Not even after. I'd say probably 10 minutes after our last episode finished.
Yeah, so it's like what are the odds, dude? We talk about two managers being fired, and then he gets fired not that long after the episode's over. Paul Skenes, I forgot to mention this last episode, so we probably are a little late, but he committed to Team USA. We can talk a bit about that, especially because he's been in the news for other reasons, because that Pirate team's not good. And I think that's pretty much all the topics we got today. So I guess we can start off with the Marlins.
Yes, sir. The Marlins, they played a good series versus the Rays. If you want to start off with that first game, where we had the offensive explosion versus Tampa, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it was, I believe, versus Taj Bradley, who was on the mound for Tampa. And honestly, that was a pretty good overall series. Like, I was a little worried how that series would go because Tampa seems to always have like good pitching, even though I don't know. Tampa last 2, 3 seasons, I guess, isn't the quote unquote Tampa we know. I feel
No.
like, a lot of their guys, a lot of their front office guys have kind of like been dispersed around the league, and maybe Bendix was the last good one left around, and the Marlins kind of took him.
He was the glue.
Because if you look around the league, not to make this about Tampa, but if you look around the league, the GM for the Dodgers is from Tampa. I believe there's like a few other front offices that have Tampa guys, and the Marlins has added one of them, with Peter Bendick. So it is interesting there. But honestly, I thought that was a pretty good overall series. If you ask me, they played well. They had some good timely hitting as always, and honestly, they got good performances out of the starting rotation too, for most of that series. I believe Quantrill was in that series. And
On Sunday, yeah.
yeah, Sundays was probably I would say the best win of that series. You had Liam Hicks homering. You had I would almost call it, like, if you're a World Baseball Classic fan like I am, I would almost call it a mini Team Canada win because Quantrill's Canadian, Liam Hicks is Canadian, and even Otto Lopez, who's half Dominican, half Canadian, has played for Team Canada, and he also homered. Hicks homered. I think it was a pretty good overall series. What do you have to really take away from it?
Yeah, the series went well. The Sunday start I said was Quantrill. Quantrill, by the way, that's his second start in a row. That's been pretty good. He's shoving the last two starts. He shoved versus Tampa. He shoved. I believe he pitched in that the Cubs series, if I'm not mistaken. That first one. And he's been pretty damn good. The first game, I believe it was 9-4, the final score. The bats were working the whole game. And the second game, of course, the game that I went to was an absolute snooze fest for the Marlins. That was their singular loss of the series.
Yeah.
We got shut off 4-0. All 4 runs were on Sandy's tab. Which kind of segues into something that I want to hear your comments on. I just don't know what is going on. Because the last few starts, it seems that the first 3-4 innings, he's got it going, and then when it gets to the fifth inning, he's just collapsing. And, his ERA is still sitting at around an 8. He's just not looking that great.
I am gonna be honest, and it's, the the only other player that I can remember, right? Obviously, Sandy's not the first pitcher to get Tommy John. That's not where I'm going. What I'm trying to say is that the only other player that I can remember, because I consistently watched the Marlins, and I've been watching them consistently since 2012, that got Tommy John was Jose Fernandez.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember that with great detail, but I do remember like when it was announced he got Tommy John, when he was rehabbing, and all that to come back, and I vividly remember the game in which he came back, because funny enough, it was Jose Fernandez versus Matt Cain, and it was both of them. I don't know if Matt Cain was coming back from Tommy John the same, but I do remember Matt Cain was also coming back from a long arm injury hiatus. And I believe Jose also homered in that game. Funny enough,
He
too.
homered in that game. Yeah.
But
He
what
did.
I'm trying to say is that and I mean I haven't studied really necessarily like in terms of because forget about the numbers for a second, right? I haven't really studied and looked at how players have looked when they return from Tommy John. I mean, one of the biggest Tommy John stories of recent years has been Nathan Evaldi, who had two Tommy John, and he's been one of the only pitchers, almost seemingly in baseball history, that has like came back from Tommy John twice and been as successful as he's been. Um, and a lot of people say that it's obviously different for every pitcher. That's one thing, and that it's just it may not be they're not gonna just come. He's not gonna come back and return to Cy Young form, which I don't think anyone was expecting with Sandy. But what I'm trying to say here with everything that I said before is that really getting to see a picture recover from Tommy John surgery, right? From being able to follow his off season, everything they shared in the off season, being able to watch his spring training into the season. I really think that yes, I understand that in spring training he was throwing, good velocity, but he wasn't throwing every 5 days in spring training either. He was a lot more spaced out. So that allows him to recover more because that just gives him more rest in between starts. They're not gonna do
Yeah.
that in the season. Obviously, they need him to pitch every fifth day. They want to get him on a season on a normal season's routine.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be honest. I think I kind of agree with a lot of like what the reports have been, and a lot of like front office executives have said this. A lot of people just in general, like covering the team, have said this, and everything is that the farther you start to remove a player from Tommy John surgery, the better they start to become. I understand his numbers might not look the best. I understand that he might still give up four, runs a game, and it's usually 4 runs a game in one blow up inning. It's not like he's getting just absolutely crushed the whole game, in my opinion. And I think what you saw, especially in his start versus the Rays, was his best stuff yet. He was throwing a lot of 99 sinkers. He was hitting 100. I I think that slowly but surely his stuff is starting to come around. Now, that doesn't mean he has command. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But his stuff is there, meaning the sinker with 99 is there. But the issue is that sometimes you don't know where that sinker with 99 is going to end up when he throws it. When he throws the fastball at 100, you don't know necessarily where it's going to end up. And the other thing I want to point out, too, is that right now his lack of command really hurts him because he's not a player, never been really much of a pitcher who misses bats. His biggest strength has always been being able to throw hard, and being able to essentially induce ground balls whenever he wants. Like one of his biggest strengths, and we've seen it a little bit here and there throughout this season. But if you go back to the Cy Young season, really one of his biggest strengths was when he would I don't know, walk a runner or whatever, give up a single. He could get a ground ball at will, and the infielders would turn two, and it was like an automatic 2 outs. And really, what I see now is obviously somebody who's recovering from Tommy John, somebody whose I think stuff is getting better because not only did I think his stuff was better right now, or the best we've seen all season versus the Rays, but I believe his previous start before this was versus the White Sox, and I think his stuff wasn't too bad there either. Even though he had like towards the end, I believe, like the blow up, you know, kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, I'm honestly starting to worry a little less because if he comes out next outing throwing again 99 100, which is what he did throughout the whole majority of his Cy Young season, then I mean you're just waiting for him to find that command, which you hope is the next thing to come, because that would be the last thing he's really missing.
Yeah, I don't really understand why you brought up the Jose Fernandez, because Jose Fernandez after Tommy John had a 2.86 ERA.
Well, no, I bring him up. I bring him up because he's really the only other pitcher in my lifetime that I really studied or saw on a day to day basis of how he recovered from Tommy John surgery. He was he came back a lot better, but I don't necessarily think every player is the same way. I'm sure Sandy's not the first player to or pitcher to get Tommy John and come back and struggle. And take longer time to get back to form. I just don't have that knowledge in front of me because I would have to look back at every picture in history that got Tommy John to find that out.
No, and I get that, but it's not like it's like, oh, a good start here, good start there, or he's struggling. It's been all bad. I get what you mean that he has the innings where he looks good, and then he has the one blow up inning, but that's what matters though. It's like what, and even in the Rays game, I was there. He had a couple innings, although he didn't have the blow up inning until the fifth. He had a couple innings with runners on. It still looks like he's struggling out there, and the rate at which he's struggling is concerning. I mean, it's not just like he's struggling. He has a 4.55 ERA. He has an 8 ERA, and we're getting destroyed in the games that he pitches in. So it's concerning just because it's not just the fact that he's struggling a grand amount.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is, but I just kind of like I don't know. I mean, it is sometimes like worrisome, and there are certain moments where I do, as a fan, worry because it kind of seems like he's like, for example, the Rays game I think is probably the best start to give this example of that he's throwing well, and his stuff is 90, like I was saying, the sinker is 99, he's hitting 100. He had some sinkers early on in that game too that he was throwing 99 and dotting them wherever he wanted. So it kind of felt like you were like seeing like his command a little bit. And then he had that inning, like you said, the fifth, where it wasn't even like, I don't even think the first runner that got on was like that hard of a hit or anything like crazy. But it just kind of seems like any moment he's backed up against the ropes like that, he I don't know, he like crumbles.
He's
Like,
getting beat. He's just getting beat.
which I think at this point is like, it has to be a mental thing, and it's probably a mental thing because of the way he's performing, and it's affecting
Yeah.
his confidence, and it's affecting the way he performs, because and it's just like overwhelming him and getting to him. When he makes one little mistake, I don't know necessarily. Obviously, I'm not him. I'm not in his head. I'm not privy to his inner thoughts. Nobody will be. Not even the coaches who ask him questions, because it's impossible, I think, to be in someone's inner thoughts, no matter how much they tell you. But I think it's that, like to me as a fan watching the games, it kind of looks like if he starts overthinking the minute he makes one bad mistake, where it's like, in my opinion, he needs to kind of just not. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to not do that, but I'm saying like that's the way he can overcome that, is like remind himself who the hell he is. Like, dude, this guy is Sandy. He's thrown over 800, over 800 innings in his career. He's been one of the best pitchers ever. Like, he's been, for a while since he debuted. He's been like at the top of his game for a while. He can't let his recent performance this season kind of destroy who he is. It's like he still has the stuff that plays, especially if his velo's gonna be back to 99.
Yeah, I'm
Not
with you.
not many hitters, in my opinion, even if you throw it down the middle, can hit 99 consistently.
Yeah, but that's the problem. He's just the ball is not landing where he wants it. That's the issue that's at hand, and that's the reason why his ERA and the situations that he's gotten himself are the ball is just simply not going where he wants, and there's been way too many balls down the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I I would say I start to worry a little less if and only if. So this means right now I'm sticking at my same level of worry. It looks somewhat mental, somewhat like confidence issues. But if he throws his next 2 3 starts, right, and he's still throwing 99, I start to worry a little less because of the simple fact that would tell me he has everything else feeling right. His recovery from what he said earlier this season that it was taking him a little time to adjust to recovering after every start, that would seem to be back. His recovery would seem to be fine, and it would also mean that the only thing that's lagging behind is his command. And once he gets command, he, in my opinion, I'm not saying he's gonna become Cy Young Sandy again, but you get a way better version of Sandy once his command is back. And
Yeah, I mean, time will tell.
I mean, and really, that's kind of where I sit with Sandy because it is, and it's really only, I mean, and I don't want to like diminish anything and like make it seem smaller than it is, but if we're being honest here, I mean, it's only frustrating because A, we saw how good he can be when he won the Cy Young, and B, we know what he expects out of himself. He doesn't seem happy with himself at all when you listen to these post game interviews. Like, he doesn't seem content at all. We know that he puts in all the work in the world, and he's not, clearly right now, he's not content with himself at all. Where he's at.
I mean, only time will tell where we're gonna get. Hopefully, hopefully we get back to some semblance of what was Sandy 2 years ago.
Yeah, because I mean, even Sandy in what 2023, which was the last time he pitched before this year and before getting Tommy John surgery, even that year he wasn't that good, and I still don't think like numbers wise and anything else wise, and that was obviously because he had the impending doom of Tommy John on the horizon in 2023, but not even in that season was he as bad as now. So really, I think it's just gonna. I really think that if and I'll leave it here with the whole Sandy talk and and all, but I'll say this that if what they say is true about the further a picture gets away from Tommy John surgery, the better they become or the more like themselves they start to become. And if his outing versus the Rays was any indicator of that being true, I think he's actually, you know, projecting or going in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, and then we can kind of touch on the Cup Series a little bit where they won, well, where they lost 2 of 3.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think the Cup Series was as bad. I don't think both times that we played the Cubs this season have been that like if it's been horrendous losses, I don't think it's been that. I think it's been more like frustrating moments where it really looks like we should have won some of these games and
Yeah, I mean, especially, and I'll be completely frank. I was working today. I didn't get to watch the 1 o'clock game. I did keep track of the box score, but especially a game like today, 2-1. And then you have the issue where I was watching when the ball got away from who was in left field today, Stowers.
yeah, Stowers.
Yeah, when the ball gets away from Stowers, and the run scores on that. It's little things that and at the end of the day, we scored 1 run. I mean, not many games you're gonna win when you score 1 run.
Yeah,
So
I mean, a lot of people point to Kyle Stowers, but those are the things that annoy me. Like, I get it. He made the error, and you don't want to making the error, even if it's a blowout game. You don't want your fielders making errors. That's not the kind of thing you want to see from your fielders. But I will say, I think it's a little blown out of proportion because, like you said, we scored 1 run, but that's what happens. When the offense can't hit, and then you make one little mistake on defense, it looks that much worse because your offense can't score. And in reality, the offense needs to get more than one. We only lost 2-1, so the pitching pretty much held it down for most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, pitching was good. Max Meyer had a good outing. I mean, honestly, in this sense, there's nothing more the pitching could have done. Unfortunately, yes, Flowers makes the error, but at the end of the day, as I stated previously, we scored a run. Not many games you're going to win when you score 1 run.
Yeah, so I mean, that really wasn't just, yeah, I mean, I understand, people are going to have their reaction again to the whole Stowers thing, but you put that blame on the offense because you can't, like you said, you can't score if I mean, you can't win games if you're only scoring one, and it was just all around bad performances by everybody. But just how it is. I mean, we won the second game?
No, we won the first game.
The first game, which was the walk-off. That was pretty fun.
That was one of the more, I would say, aside from the Dodgers walk-off that we had here at home, I'd say that walk-off versus Chicago is probably the most exciting of the season. That was very fun.
Yeah, those and I kind of tweeted this during the game, but that kind of a game is like the one where it's honestly really fun to watch with a team like you had this year, because you saw a lot of little moments in the game where it kind of feels like you build an identity. Like I believe Sonoha stole the base. They were not only stealing bases, but it was the way they were executing, running the bases, taking an extra base. Rounding the bag hard. Doing certain things on offense. The pitching coming up big in certain spots. Even though Tinoco, had that one inning after we took the lead, and Tinoco's been pretty horrible since he came back from the IL, honestly. But it's little things like that where I like watching games like that. Even if we would have lost, I still would have enjoyed watching a game like that, because it's things where it's like, okay, we obviously don't have the full team or type of players that Peter Bendix and his developmental team would like to put on the major league roster right now. But once you do, and once you get certain guys, once you develop this team farther on, and you maybe call up guys from the minor leagues, or draft the guys that you like, guys that fit the mold, guys that fit the style of ball club you're trying to build. Games like that show a blueprint of how they're trying to play.
No, they got some heart. They got some heart, and as long as, like you said, even though this is not the final product of whatever this team is supposed to be, they got heart, and that makes people want to play for whoever's the manager.
Yeah.
As long as you keep playing with heart and you keep fighting, no matter what your record is, people are going to want to play with you because you play to win, and that's what matters at the end of the day, to me at least.
I mean, because here's another thing too. I'll say, because you just mentioned the manager, and I think we've had 6 walk-offs, I believe, which I think puts us now in the MLB lead this season for walk-offs.
Walk-offs, yeah.
Previously we were tied with the Giants, but it's like, I don't care. Here's what I'm gonna say for this. I don't care what you think of some of Clay McCullough's moves. I don't care what you think of his lineup some nights. I don't care what you think of some of his moves about how he wants to use the bullpen, how he wants to take out starters. Put that aside for a moment. But clearly, you see this team, and you see it especially with someone like Ramirez, who on that walk-off, I posted a clip on my Twitter, by the way, on that walk-off, as soon as you see Sonoha rounding third and heading for home, he immediately slams his bat down. Like, these are players that like playing with each other, that root for each other. Like, like a lot of times you would have a team like this that's, I don't know, what, 10 games under 500 or something, and a lot of players are selfish, playing for themselves. These players do not care. Ramirez didn't care about being the one to get the hit. He didn't care about being the one at the plate to walk it off. I mean, would that have been cool for him? Yeah, sure, maybe. But he was just excited that his teammates won the game, and that's been like that all season long with guys. I mean, earlier in the season, Kyle Stowers had a multi-homer game in LA, and after the game, he said he would trade both his home runs if it meant the Marlins win. These guys, yes, I'm not saying that he's not proud of himself for that multi-homer game. He probably feels some sort of, like he's happy with his day in terms of like getting those 2 home runs. But at the end of the day, these are players that care about each other, have each other's back, and want to win. And they don't care about being the hero. They care about playing as a unit, which ultimately leads to the win. And I think that
Yeah,
and I think you credit that to Clay McCullum because, like I said, I don't care how you feel about his moves. To me, that feels like it comes from the manager being able to get this group together and believe in each other.
yeah. I mean, it definitely comes from the manager to get the players to buy in onto whatever's being built. And this is the last thing I'll say about Clay McCullough. Like you said, as long as people keep wanting to play for him, that's all that matters. He's gonna. It's his first year, bro. We're like what, like 40 games in. Like he's gonna make mistakes, and at the end of the day,
we're almost 50 games in by now. But yeah.
Yeah, sorry. He's gonna make mistakes, and at the end of the day, as long as he continues to grow and the team continues to grow with him and wants to play with him, that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I think that really is. And I think, I mean, we can kind of leave the Marlins segment there unless you have anything you want to add, any specifics you want to talk about.
Yeah, we won't talk about last night's game. The Marlins lost, I believe, 12-1. So that's your recap for last night's game.
Yeah, I mean, that was the second game versus the Cubs. I mean, yeah, I mean,
we'll just leave it there. We lost 12-1.
Yeah, it's just kind of the kind of season we've had, and I mean, I'll leave this right now and say this here, getting almost to the 50-game mark, which obviously is not halfway or anything, but I think it's a good halfway point for the early part of the season. This team has been kind of what I expected a little bit. There's been some surprising players, obviously, like Kyle Stowers.
I disagree. I think they've been actually. I think they've been better than I expected.
But
I would say that.
I mean that's fair. Yeah, they've been better than expectations for some, but I would say it's kind of been more or less what I expected. Like the kind of season where certain players are gonna be good. You don't have the full overall team there. You kind of are looking a lot into the minor leagues because a lot of those guys are gonna be hopefully the future, and hopefully they play well, which a decent amount of them have. Um, Even though unfortunately we've had some key injuries in the minor leagues. But other than that, I think the Marlins have put together for their own standards and as an organization a pretty good season. I'll be more than happy to kind of talk about them as an organization, not just as a major league team, but as an organization. The closer we get to the draft and the deadline, because I think that's gonna be a very important part of the season for them. But so I don't want to get too ahead of myself talking about the organization now, because that'll be better to do once we get closer to the draft.
Yeah.
So yeah, but kind of moving on here, we have Juan Soto's return to Yankee Stadium. I almost wrote down, by the way, when I was writing the notes, return to New York, but I'm like, he's still playing for the Mets, so I mean, he didn't leave New York.
Nah, he's still there. Although he may be unhappy here in this side of New York, he's still in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think he went like 1 for 10 in.
He had a bad series.
He had a bad series. It was kind of nothing to write home about. But what I find funny, and I will say this, is the way Yankee. I mean, maybe you feel differently, maybe you don't. But to me, what I find funny is the way Yankees fans have acted about Juan Soto leaving. I mean, I kind of agree with the people who say he was only there for 1 year. I get it what he meant, like they went to the World Series with him for the first time in a while. He was a big time
Yeah,
player and
right.
everything. But it's like at the same time, he was a free agent and he was free to go wherever he wanted, and he was clearly gonna go where he got paid the most. That always seemed like the logical thing. I understand booing him, but I feel like some of the things they did were like a little too much. But I get it. They were probably just having fun with it.
No,
Launching him
and
in the
not just
outfield.
that though. Not just that. It's not like your regular mid-season rental. I mean, this is Juan Soto, and they went to the World Series with him. And given what we know, I mean, I know you're a denier of this fact. You're still not ready to admit that Juan Soto's unhappy with the Mets, but it's obvious. It's clear as day. He feels, and you know, a, a lot of people agree. I know you probably won't admit it, but it's clear as day, just by body language and the way he's playing, that he's unhappy with his choice, and that he would have
No,
rather
I
stayed
mean
with the
I,
Yankees.
I I wouldn't necessarily disagree. Like it's a lot of little things that we've seen throughout the season, but I mean I'm just I'm just kind of curious. Like what I would add, that's kind of my own thing to that about him being unhappy with the Mets, because you see it. Like I feel like we've seen less Soto shuffle. We've seen less like him amped up when he hits home runs and stuff. But I'm just kind of curious if I mean, because the Mets are playing really well, like even despite him not being a top producer on that team. So it really does look like right now they're gonna be in the playoffs. I'm just curious how that affects going into the playoffs if they make it, and how that affects him if he. Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like what I'll say is that he is naturally too good of a player that I think it's hard for me to see him like over the course of the full season. Maybe for his standards, it's not gonna be a good season, but I still find it hard him not having necessarily a good season, and I think that would just be something that plays in the playoffs. Because if he really like they make it to the playoffs and he really doesn't play well there, now that's gonna be an issue. And not only if he doesn't play well, but if he plays with absolutely no interest, that's gonna be an issue.
It's just that he's been half-assing the whole season up to now. He's basically just he's going through the motions. You could tell. It's like it almost seems like he doesn't want to play. Like the whole incident that happened just on Monday with the whole thing of him hitting it off the green monster, not running. You know, the manager comes out and says that he's gonna talk to him about it because he's not hustling, and he comes out and he says, "Oh, I have been hustling. I think you could see it," which clearly he's not. So I don't know what exactly his motivation was in signing with the Mets if he was going to be this unhappy either way.
I mean, I've heard, I don't know how true it is, that it was kind of a push from his family. I mean, because as far as we know, and what I know anyways, is that the Mets were the ones who gave him the most money.
Right.
So it seems like that was basically the driving force for him to sign there, because he had outside influence from other people, which were family members.
Yeah, and it looks like he made the wrong choice. I mean, this is a good I think a good way that I want to end off on this topic is this is a good example of money doesn't buy you happiness, folks. And he's clearly not happy where he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see how it progresses, because I mean, this is a Mets team. Like I was saying earlier, this is a Mets team that's gonna be playing meaningful games down the stretch. Um, they're gonna have to compete with the Phillies in terms of the division. I don't I don't think the Braves are gonna be much of a threat to that this year.
No.
Even once they get Acuna back, because they have multiple issues that I'm sorry Acuna can be the best thing since Barry Bonds. He's not gonna solve the issues for that team. Um, and now the Braves have been playing a lot better, but whatever. This is not about the Braves. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just curious to see how that translates. Cause here's the one thing, right? Like, if if he's playing this interested right now because he got paid, he's not happy with the being on the Mets, whatever. He's playing quote unquote meaningless May games. Fine, right? If he all of a sudden turns it up and becomes amazing down the stretch and even in the playoffs, that's a whole different story. If he never does that and he stays playing this interested even when he's in late September, early playoffs, or just the playoffs in general, that's I think gonna be a big issue. Because
I mean,
that's something that I think could affect the rest of his contract.
yeah, I mean, and it's too early for any speculations of him possibly being moved anywhere or any of that, so I don't want to talk about that. But I I personally do think that if he continues uh if he continues acting this way and he continues underperforming, uh I don't know, man. I just can't see him playing out this contract with the Mets if he continues to act this way down the line.
I mean, I don't see the Mets, especially because they're the Mets and they have one of the richest owners in the league. I don't see the Mets wanting to move on from him, especially because I think even with what's been taking place performance wise this year, I think teams still know who Juan Soto is and they take that name on the back of the jersey very seriously. And I think that has affected games for the Mets. Even if Juan Soto doesn't do anything, it's still the way they pitch the other guys in the lineup who come before him or come after him because they know who Juan Soto is. You know what I mean?
No, but I'm not. That's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say is attitude wise. You know that in this day of age, like we've talked about it with the Denver situation. You know that in this day and age, players have all the power. If he continues to underperform and eventually he just says, "Hey, I don't want to play," then what are they going to do? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Soto would necessarily get to that point just because he's getting paid a ton and he's playing every day and he's like playing right field, and I don't think he's necessarily and he's on a winning team that's pretty good. I mean, I don't know what more like I find it being like a tough case. Like with Devers, he's obviously like unhappy with his situation. So there's a whole like other case there.
Yeah, but he is though. He is
But
unhappy with the situation.
I feel like with Juan Soto, it's like I don't know. I mean, I don't think he, as far as I know, anyways, unless I'm wrong, I don't think he controls. I mean, the only way he controls where he goes, if he would ever want to leave the Mets, would be he simply like stop showing up because I don't think he has an opt out, nor do I think he has. I mean, other than going up to the team and being like, I want to be traded, I'm not happy here anymore. But I don't know. I mean,
We'll see.
I don't. I think it's still too early for that,
No, it's way too early.
and I mean that's gonna be a contract too. That if he truly says one day, I'm done playing for you guys, and decides to stop showing up, it's gonna be the hardest contract to move because he is literally gonna become a DH at some point. Teams are not
Yeah,
gonna want to play him in the field,
yeah.
and he's what essentially an $800 million man.
765, I think.
Yeah, I believe there's something in there that brings it up to 800. But point is, I think it's gonna be the toughest thing to move if that ever gets to that point. But that's kind of looking ahead and
That's
speculating.
speculation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's speculation.
Um. But yeah, that's kind of the Juan Soto situation. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments what you guys think about Juan Soto's return to the Bronx. We'll say. And yeah, just let us know how you think, if you believe he's unhappy or not, if you agree with us. But yeah. So the next thing up on the notes that I have written down would be Brandon Hyde being fired. But actually, I would love to leave that for last and talk about Paul Skenes.
Dude, you read my mind. I was gonna tell you that. I was gonna tell you that. You read my mind.
Because not only so let's take this in two parts. Not only did Paul Skenes commit to Team USA, he's probably one of the best pitchers on the planet. I think number wise, Tarek Schoolboy is better than him right now, but he's clearly one of the best pitchers on the planet. And not only is he one of the best pitchers on the planet, he's one of the most patriotic players you could possibly get to play for Team USA. I mean, the guy went to Air Force before transferring to LSU. I haven't looked into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if this guy comes from a deep, military family background. He's played for Team USA already. Not only in college, but he played all the way when he was 12 years old in the 12U team. So I mean, he's honestly the perfect guy to get on this roster and to be the ace for Team USA. I mean, I don't know if we want to add anything necessarily, but
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, man. It's exciting. He's the most talked about pitcher in the league right now. And honestly, it's gonna be, man, I'm just so excited for the World Baseball Classic. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man.
yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I think this year's team is probably gonna be the best yet.
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna be the best team we've ever put together, and I mean it'll be fun. I mean we have Paul Skeens and Aaron Judge. There's only gonna be more players to be
That are gonna opt in.
yeah that are gonna opt in, that are gonna commit. I mean, um, Mark DeRosa does MLB Central. I would honestly advise you guys to keep a close eye on that show because they're always putting out announcements. He's always talking about the World Baseball Classic. I mean, I remember he did an interview. I believe it was the last time around, like in 2023. He did an interview with Zach Gallen at the time, and he was like, and he immediately asked him, "So what are you doing in March?" It's like he's always asking guys if they want to play, and he's always trying to get guys to play. So I mean, that's honestly pretty awesome. But I before we return back to Paul Skeens, because there is other reasons he's been in the news lately. I do want to ask, what other pictures would you put on the Team USA staff?
I mean, right now, I mean, if we're talking honestly, the pitcher with the best stats in the league right now is Max Fried. Max Fried has the best stats in the whole league right now. So if you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure Max Fried is American. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's also Jewish, so he could have eligibility for Israel. But be honest, I think a lot of these players, if they have USA eligibility and can play, will probably play for USA.
Yeah, I mean, Max Fried has the best stats in the league right now. I mean, he's pitching very well. The Yankees win like almost every game that he starts in. I mean, if he keeps this up, he's gonna have to be on the rotation. Another one, I'm not sure if he is American. I'm pretty sure he is Garrett Crochet.
Yeah, he is.
Garrett Crochet is another one that's playing really good. Um, who else? Yeah, I mean, right now I'll put those as my two. I would say that you need to put Max Fried and Crochet in there if they keep it up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I actually made a video and I'm gonna remake it because I've been changing up my short style into like a little more edited version. So if you guys want to stay tuned for that, I'll be making my list of who I think should be on it. I've been working on the video a little bit, but just to give you guys a little teaser and stuff, obviously Paul Skeens is number one. I think it's a max of 14 pitchers you can have total. So I'd say five, a 5-man rotation. Even though the tournament's pretty short, so some teams go for like a 4-man because it's not. They'd rather get their guys up a lot quicker. But anyways, Paul Skenes is obviously the ace. He's gonna start game one. Um, I I think a name that honestly should be said a lot more, and I feel like is not as heavily mentioned as it should be, is someone like Zach Wheeler. I mean, he's been one of the best pitchers since he signed with the Phillies in 2020. He's been one of the best postseason pitchers since signing with the Phillies, and that, I mean, that alone, like, not only has he been one of the best postseason pitchers, but he has postseason experience. I mean, that's something you want to take with
It's
you
valuable.
to the World Baseball Classic on the biggest stage. Um, Another guy who, by the way, I would encourage all of you to go look up his baseball reference page because I was absolutely floored when I saw it because I knew he was good, but I did not think he was this consistently good. It's Corbin Burns. He is somebody who's been one of the best pitchers since he debuted, and I mean, I was looking at his freaking thing. I don't think he's had a season where he's had an ERA out of 3, maybe high 2s, but I don't think he's had a single ERA out of 3. His career total ERA might be a 3 something, but I don't think he's ever had a season like. And he's won, I believe, a Cy Young, or been up there.
I believe he has.
And he's just very consistent too. I would easily put Tarek Schoolball, although what's interesting about him is that he has Netherlands eligibility, and maybe he goes to play there. I mean, some players prefer to play like for the country their parents are from or their grandparents are from. And I'm sure the Netherlands are going to be very heavy on trying to recruit him because, I mean, come on, if they get Schoolball, he'd be their best pitcher. So I mean, but yeah, I will say that if you guys um watch this episode and all that, you should be on the lookout because I'll be making a shorts form video of what I would like to see as the starting rotation for Team USA. And there is one player I did not mention on this episode because I want to leave him as a surprise to people because I think he's underrated and I think he's an interesting choice that I think nobody would say, but honestly, he's been pretty good since he joined the league or since he debuted. So I mean, there's that. But another thing I wanted to mention before we move on from this Paul Skenes segment is I don't know if you've seen, but it's been the biggest debate in the sport probably right now is whether or not the freaking Pirates should trade him.
Well, I haven't seen the whole trade talk. What I have seen is, the numbers where the amount of games they've lost when he's only given up a run. And I think I saw it was like 6 or 7. And, people are questioning the organization because of, how good he is, how bad they've been at putting a team around him. So, I mean, you know how it goes with these stars, man. When the teams are underperforming, they go and they ship him away. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually he's not a Pirate anymore. But I think it's still too early for any of that talk, to be honest with you.
So, just to give a little bit of context here to how this all started, basically Jeff Passan from ESPN went on the Pat McAfee show and he said that the Pirates should trade Paul Skenes this season, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Because, I mean, whether or not the Pirates are going to build a team around him is a whole different story. And, I mean, they absolutely should. I mean, they have Paul Skenes are going to have their top pitching prospect debut at some point this year, Bubba Chandler. Recently, Jared Jones, I believe is his name, he was announced that he's getting Tommy John surgery, so unfortunately he's going to be out for a while for them. But I mean, they're going to have pitching. That's the thing. they're going to have pitching, and they're going to have pitching for a while. Build an offense. I mean, this is a team that if they just spend a little bit on their offense, can easily catapult themselves into consistent playoff team. And it is absolutely shameful that they seemingly right now I have no interest in doing that. But anyway, so Jeff Passan went on the Pat McAfee show and he said that they should trade Paul Skenes this year, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because he's only had 1 year of major league service time. Yeah, I mean, there's no way to quantify his value. There's none. I mean, he's
Well, well, let's be real with ourselves. If the Pirates said tomorrow, "Hey, Paul Skenes is on the trade block," the whole league is calling.
yeah.
So
I mean,
let's
I
be real.
think I'm gonna be honest. I think unless you pull a Juan Soto trade 2.0 of what the Nationals did, where they got C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, I think was part of it. They got James Wood. They have Hansel Robles, who I don't know if he's debuting today, but I know he got called up last night. Um, Things like that, you know. Unless they pull off a trade like that, which I gonna be honest, I see that being very tough to happen. But unless they're gonna pull off a trade like that, I mean, I don't think any team has what it takes to trade for him. And I get it. If the Pirates don't compete, they're eventually gonna have to trade him. But I think it becomes a lot easier to trade him down the line because right now you'd be trading him with like 6 years of control to his name. The thing is that he is making virtually no money. He is 6 years of control, and he is like the best pitcher in the league, if you want to call him that. So the thing is that this isn't like a Sandy situation where it's like Sandy only has 2 years of control and yada yada yada. This is a situation where I don't know how you value Paul Skeens right now. I understand that, like you said, like if the Pirates were to put him on the trade block right now, every team's gonna come calling. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't think any team has what it takes to trade for him at the current moment, which is why I think it'd be ridiculous to trade him right now at so early in his career.
I agree. I agree. I get what you're saying, but I think that unfortunately, because of the situation with the team, it'll happen sooner than later.
It will happen sooner than later, and I mean that's honestly I think another issue that baseball has in general because it's like these are the kind of players as a fan of MLB, this is removing me being a fan of the Marlins and having bias, even though the Marlins fall into this same problem. Is that the MLB would be a much better league if these teams like if dude the Pirates should have been handing out an extension to Paul Skeens the day he debuted. They should have been telling him we're gonna build around you and actually do it. They should have started this off season. You know, I mean, they need to spend the money, man. Sign players, like make it happen. These
I'm with you.
players like Paul Skeens should not be hitting the open market. So what? So what? They end up getting traded away to I don't know the Mets, the Dodgers. Well, not even that, but they end up getting traded away to whoever gives them like 2 3 years down the line, right? They end up getting traded away, and then whatever team they get traded to decides not to resign him either. What he's or he's gonna end up becoming a free agent, and then what? It's gonna be the same cycle that we had with Juan Soto, with whoever else in recent years. You know, it's like no.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the MLB has a huge problem when it comes to trading and free agency, and it's just a league thing. Because then automatically you get traded or a rental, and it's like, oh, it's gonna either be the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees. You can maybe throw in the Red Sox, and then you're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be part of one of those teams because they're gonna offer me the most money. So unfortunately, it's a league-wide problem, and it happens with every major player that gets traded.
And here's the thing. like, you know who Paul Skenes is. He's a competitor. He wants to win. You can clearly tell that if it was up to him right now, he would put himself on the team that gives him the best chance to win. And that's
Right.
exactly what's going to happen when it comes to free agency. And I mean, it's going to rule out so many different teams because teams just don't seem to want to build teams that win.
Yeah. It's a league-wide problem, unfortunately. And I'd say within the next 2 to 3 years, he's gonna end up on a new team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that needs to change, and I don't think it'll ever change until the MLB steps in and forces change to happen there, because I mean, it's just like they're with that kind of a pitching staff that they can have. Like I said, Jerry Jones, Bubba Chandler, and Paul Skeens, who's already up, and all those guys. They could easily make themselves one of the best teams in in the league if they just spend on offense.
We'll see. Unfortunately, it's a problem that's gonna just keep continue to happen until, like you said, until the league steps in.
Because look, we're having this conversation right now about Paul Skeens, and he takes, deservedly so, all the attention on that pitching staff. But like I said, I mentioned someone like Bubba Chandler, who's been amazing in the minor leagues for them, and is gonna get called up soon. And he's been a top pitching prospect in the league for a while, or for a little bit anyway. Jerry Jones, who just got Tommy John. We're just gonna end up repeating the cycle. I mean, it was the same thing that happened a few years ago with these same Pirates when they had Garrett Cole and they had Glasnow. It's like
They're just not a good organization. They're not a good organization.
I mean, these are the kind of things that honestly frustrate me, because it's like we are literally watching them go through the same thing that they had with Glasnow and Garrett Cole, to and it's like history's repeating itself. So, anyways, I think the Pirates are just a mess of an organization. Like you said, they're not a good organization, and the MLB needs to step in and really fix that problem.
And it's not just them. It's not just them.
Yeah, and it's not just them, honestly. A few other teams that are the same way, but unfortunately, the Pirates struck gold. Got lucky and struck gold, and they have Paul Skeens on their hand. So it looks the worse for them, because they could easily be competing right now and be one of the better teams. Anyways, we'll round it off talking about, for our last segment, Brandon Hyde getting fired by the Orioles. Last time I asked a question, so I'll ask it again. Do you think this firing was using him as a scapegoat or not?
No, it's not using him as a scapegoat, and I'll tell you why. Honestly, the Orioles went and won, I think, back-to-back years over 100 games, if not almost 100 games last year. So, all that is great, but you know it, and it doesn't matter which league it is. Winning doesn't matter until you get to the playoffs. Yeah, you win the meaningful games in the regular season, but the winning really is magnified in the playoffs. He hasn't won a playoff game. They got swept back-to-back years in the divisional at home. They had a home series, and this year they've been playing absolutely terrible. So I think it is a coaching problem. When you can't win in the playoffs, it's a coaching problem.
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna be honest. I kind of agree there. I don't think it's necessarily a scapegoat. I don't think it's any of that. I think it was probably the right move. I don't know if I would have made it right now at this point, but at the same time, I don't really think they win anything with Mike Elias as their GM. I mean, he is the guy, need I remind you, who traded Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby for Trevor Rogers, who has a 7 ERA in the minor leagues. And he's also the guy who signed basically the retirement home for the pitching staff he signed Kyle Gibson, he signed Zach Eflin, he signed who else did he sign that I'm missing right now? Charlie Morton, who's been moved to the bullpen now because he's been that terrible. I mean, this guy does not know how to construct a roster clearly. But at the same time, I do think both it was both a coaching issue and it was also a GM issue. He never really gave. I mean, Brandon Hyde has been here since the Orioles were tanking. He's been with the team for a while, so he got through that. He finally got the better team, and I think it's two things to it. It's the fact that Mike Elias doesn't know how to build a roster, and that's kind of hindered them in terms of winning. And also at the same time, it does fall a bit on the coaching staff and Brandon Hyde because this year I don't think he was getting enough out of his players. I mean, guys like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and a few others aren't necessarily playing all that great. And I
They're
think
not playing well.
and I don't care what kind of roster you have. You need to get the best out of your better players. And when you're not doing that, it's an issue.
And I think when we did correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we did the first episode before the on opening day, we actually discussed that we didn't believe the Orioles were going to play very well this year.
Yeah.
And it's just so predictable. You know what I mean? You get swept back to back divisional or divisional series. You get swept and you get embarrassed. And now you're coming off a third year where you just lost Santander. And you're like, oh,
not
you
only
know,
was Santander, but they lose Corbin Burns.
Oh, and they lost Burns as well. So it's like, oh, we just got swept back-to-back years in the playoffs. Now we're somehow going to rebound, and after losing our two good players, we're going to rebound and be better. No, and of course they're playing. I think they're like 10 games under, and they're playing terrible because their players are just not performing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been terrible in Baltimore, and I don't know how much you see it, but I've seen it all over my Twitter feed of just how terrible they've been. I mean, at one point I saw a stat where like Kyle Stowers himself had a higher OPS than the entire Baltimore offense.
It's terrible. They've been terrible.
So they've been terrible, and I mean, like you were saying, they lost Corbin Burns and Anthony Santander. Santander, I kind of get it, whatever. You can maybe piece together a few players, especially if Rutschman and Gunnar were playing a lot better and a few other players. You can kind of put together players to fill in that void, but they're not. But the issue is that they lose Corbin Burns, which I don't know what to believe with the Corbin Burns situation, because apparently he supposedly was never going to re-sign anyways with them because he wanted to go to the D-backs and he's close to the family in Arizona. Fine, right? If the player flat out doesn't want to sign there because he'd rather be close to the family, so no matter how much you offer him, he's not going to re-sign with the organization, you pivot and you have to look somewhere else. But what they decided to pivot to was Kyle Gibson, freaking Eflin. Well, Eflin, they had him from last year, who honestly hasn't been that bad. The only issue is that he got hurt. But you pivot to Kyle Gibson, and Charlie Morton. I mean, when your pivot is the retirement home, it's not the way you build a roster, especially not when you
get what you asked for. You get what you asked for.
Especially not when you have a young roster like they do. I mean, they have a few players. They have Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman. They have Jackson Holiday, Grayson Rodriguez, who's another young pitcher that's good for them. They have a few young players, but they just haven't built around it. And I think so that falls on the GM, obviously, because coaching staff doesn't build a roster, even though they could probably make suggestions, but they don't make the final decision. And I think the other half falls on the coaching staff, where they're not getting the best out of their players.
Yeah, I think it was the right move. I think it was the right move, and hopefully that starts to amend things a little bit. But I do think also it comes from the top, and until the front office fixes it, we might not be getting anywhere.
I mean, I really think this season's gonna be a wash for them. It's gonna
Yeah.
be disappointment. They're gonna have to go back to the drawing board in the off season and really figure out what they want to do. I mean, I'm gonna be honest for that team. I would, and honestly, they're a young, fun team that can compete. And I know they recently got new ownership because I believe their owner passed away in like the last few years, and so they got a new like whole new ownership group. I really hope that new ownership group. They probably won't do it in season because it probably makes things a little messier to do it in season, especially because you're always having to make moves, whether it's for whatever reason. You know, you need a new whatever. You're always making transactional moves with your roster, but I really hope that they fire Mike Elias in the offseason because they need to start from the top and start over.
Yeah. And it sucks because it looked like they were just getting out of the rebuilding phase, but now it looks like they might go back in it.
I mean, it's just gonna be an absolute mess. If they don't fire Mike Elias, I really think this team is gonna crash and burn. Like the plane right now has one of its wings slightly damaged, and you can repair that wing if you fire Mike Elias and keep the plane flying. You keep him around any longer, and if he's back here in 2026, and we're still talking about Mike Elias and the Orioles in 2026, that means the plane crashed. And unfortunately, it's not gonna crash in the Hudson River, like that one movie.
Sully.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not gonna crash in the Hudson River. It's gonna crash in Camden Yards in left field with their atrocious left field wall.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good way to wrap it up. That's a good way to wrap it up.
But yeah, so anyways, thank you all for listening. We're always here weekly. Make sure to go down there, subscribe, share the episode with anybody who's interested in
You know what it is. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe as always. We'll see you back here next week. And till next time.